Hello everybody, Excited Utterance here. My name's Hella and I'd like to welcome you to what is going to be a really important stream for me, and something that I'm doing because, let's just say, I'm a bit shaken up. I'm a little bit disturbed by what's going on in Indiana at the moment. And it's thanks to Ms. Andrea Burkhart and some other content creators who have taken time out of their lives to go and sit in a courtroom day after day, and then at nighttime stream for hours and hours, take copious notes to bring to us what has been happening in that courtroom, because the Judge Francis Gull has closed off the courtroom to cameras and to audio recordings. So she hopes we, the people, can't see what's going on. But these wonderful content creators have gone out of their way to make it possible for us to find out what's happening. Now, I myself follow Ms. Andrea Burkhart. She is incredible, and I recommend wholeheartedly watching her channel each night if you possibly can. That said, if you haven't been following this case, it can be a bit difficult to come in halfway through. Or if you were following it a little bit in the past and you missed some of it, I think about people who are in that situation. So, and I also know that as you go along, people's opinions start to become really embedded. People get very passionate about these things, and you start to, I know that people start to feel like they can't comment, they can't ask questions. In some of the chats, I hope that's not the way in Andrea's chat. I do moderate in that chat, and I try to make sure that people feel comfortable to ask sort of basic questions. But I know that when it gets a little bit further into these trials, people do get quite passionate and animated, and if you're not up there just like with the basics of the case, you can feel a little bit intimidated to just interact with people and find out the basics. So what I thought would be a good thing to do, because I did go looking, I went looking to find a short kind of stream or video just showing me what happened, and I couldn't really find it. So I decided to do it myself. Welcome everybody. Hello Steph. Hello Half Irish. A lot of us are behind in Delphi because of the Boone and YSL trials. Yeah, absolutely. It's been crazy few weeks, and the timing of it, look, you never know with trials. Things happen. There's always going to be other things that are going to pop up. They don't set trials around other trials for what people are watching. That's just not how it works. Email, no, it's not going to take forever. I'm going to split this into two. So today, what we're going to do is, this is part one, and I'm going to just take us up to the time of the confessions. So we're going to go from the time of the crime up until the time of the confessions. And the reason I'm going to go to the confessions is because that's what came out in court yesterday. And it really shook me, right? The confessions really, really shook me. And I'll show you why when we get to that later. And then I'm not sure if we'll do it tomorrow or maybe a day or two later. So because it took me a bit to make this presentation today, but then we will get to the confessions, to actually getting to court, and we'll talk about the defense and how the Odinism came into it, the treatment of him by the guards, and all that other nasty stuff that happened later. So no, I'll make this bite-sized portion so people can watch one and then the other and feel like they're able to interact and ask questions and things in the various chats. And by the way, I follow Andrea. I find her to be a great source but she encourages people to get as many different points of view as they can. So, and I've looked around at some other streams, and I've been a little bit, wow. There's a lot of very contrasting views out there, and I'm going to be looking into that more for Hearsay for Days this weekend as well. So welcome everybody. Andrea is absolutely awesome. Yep, let's get into it. So, right. Delphi Case, Timeline of Trial, Part 1. Oh dear. So, this is all about these two little girls. So, the story starts back in 2017 with teen best friends Abigail Williams and Liberty German. So, Abby and Libby. There they are. 2017. Yep. Two little girls. Now, they were on February 13. Abby and Libby went on a hiking trip on the Monon High Bridge trail. Now, this image is from a video recreation of the girls' final moments. I believe Gray Hughes, a true crime creator on YouTube, made this recreation. So you can see that this is not really them. This is like avatars of them. And it was put out there back around the time to try and get people to jog their memory. It's a bit sort of eerie. Now, this is the Monon High Bridge in Indiana, and it's a landmark there. So you can see it's an old train bridge. Yeah, well, it is a bit creepy, isn't it, Eman? Hey, and by the way, we're going to have you on stream sometime soon. Yeah, so there it is. And it's really high. And it also, I'm not sure if it still is, but it's a popular sort of tourist destination. You can walk across it. So at 63 feet above Deer Creek, it is believed to be Indiana's second highest bridge. I'm not really familiar with imperial units, but 63 feet, okay. You can tell it's pretty tall. I am scared of heights. I don't think I could walk across that thing. Yeah, it looks pretty scary to me. That picture is so ominous, right, Steph? It is. Okay, so they went for a walk across this thing. Now, apparently, that's not an uncommon thing to do. They have another best friend in their friend group, so there's actually three of them, and the third one of them has been on like Court TV and things like that, and she has gone and said, look, her memories of that bridge is other people, kids, etc., taking photos of and putting it on Snapchat of them just walking across the bridge, dangling their feet over the edge, stuff like that. People would go hiking on this thing all the time. It was just a normal thing for people to do. So, and yeah, and thank you. I think I have a new member. I'm going to come to all of that at the end, and thank you so much for that. All right, so they were dropped off by their grandfather, Mike Paddy, at approximately 1 p.m. that day for their hiking trip. They failed to show up when he arrived to collect them at 3 p.m. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? My heart just sank when, because I went and had a look at this bit of news footage of him talking that night to the news, and he's just saying, I just want to find them safe. And I'm just thinking of myself, like, having dropped off my daughter and a friend and them just not turning up. Yeah, Sarah. Wow, imagine that. Imagine them just not turning up. How incredibly awful that would be. Yeah. So yeah, and also it's, yeah, like the best friend was saying, it wasn't unusual. Like people in that area as teens, they'd go hiking around there. It's not, he dropped them off around 1 p.m. He was due to pick them up at 3 p.m. They just didn't show up. Now, this is really eerie. Libby did have a cell phone, and at around 2 p.m. she posted this photo of Abby to Snapchat. Ugh. This just gives me chills. So, yeah. This is an actual photo of Abby walking along the Monon High Bridge at around 2 p.m. I don't have the actual timestamp, but around 2 p.m. So about an hour after they left. And it's a bit odd, I suppose, because she's not like smiling. She's not like posing for the camera or anything like that. It's a bit off kilter. I mean, who really knows what's going on there? I mean, it could be innocent and fine. Yes, sir, if I see you. It could be innocent and fine, or it could be not intended to have been taken and posted, but it was. So, and that's, last photo ever taken of her. Yeah, so we know they were alive then. But that wasn't all that was captured. That was not all that was captured. And this is where we get to the piece of evidence that everybody talks about all the time. This. So I'm going to play this for you now. This was captured. Not that photo, obviously, but hang on, let's just go back. Let's get back. Play again. All right, so that little bit of footage there was captured, and it shows a man. Oops, it's annoying. It shows a man. There we go. It shows a man walking towards them, and he's saying, "Guys, down the hill." A man in blue jeans, a man wearing a dark jacket, some sort of like paddy hat kind of thing. His face, it's unrecognizable. There's no way you can tell what his face looks like here. It's also pretty difficult to tell how tall he is, although there was some witnesses who say they saw a man in blue jeans and a blue-black kind of jacket and a hat, who say that he was sort of 5'9", 5'10". And he is eventually referred to as Bridge Guy. And this was captured on Libby's phone, right? So, yeah, there's a fanny pack too, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so this is the key piece of evidence, right? So it was captured on her phone. It was the last thing captured on her phone. It's the suspect, right? Now, let's move on. So the following day, their bodies were discovered, right? But despite an extensive manhunt, which with much media coverage, the case went quiet for 3 years. 3 years, right? Lots of people were interviewed, lots of tips came in, hundreds of tips came in, all right? But there was no arrest or anything like that for 3 years. And there was a lot of pressure on law enforcement to do something. Why is it gone cold? What's going on? A lot of anger in the community, that kind of thing. Now, that brings us to the sketches. So, as I said, lots of interviews with local people, who saw who out there that day, lots of tips, etc. And so from all of that came some sketches, right? So there were 2 sketches that were made, right? Now, this is the police sketch 1. Police sketch 1, showing what was later termed as Bridge Guy, as a man in his late 40s to 50s. And that was released mid-2017. Mid-2017, right? So think about this. The crime happened February 2017. So mid-2017, they put this together, right? I don't know from who or how, but from their investigations, they decided that Bridge Guy looked like that, right? Now, for quite a while, people were looking for someone that looked like that. Well, they didn't know who they were looking for at that time, Barbara, right? They didn't know who they were looking for. Cool. All right. So let's keep going. So that was the first sketch. Then, this is the police sketch 2, depicting Bridge Guy as a man in his late 20s, early 30s. And this was released in 2019, right? So you can see why people are getting confused, because law enforcement came out with this one, and like it's been referred to as looking a bit like Justin Timberlake, right? That's the one you see in your dreams, Eman. Yeah. And both of them apparently, and they came with a list of he looks like this, and also he's this tall. Both of them apparently were tallish, like 5'9", 5'10", right? So, but this one was supposed to be in his late 20s, early 30s. Both of them were supposed to be the guy that was dressed like in that video, dressed in the blue jeans and the navy jacket, right? Both of them were supposed to be him, because you can't see his face. In the video, you can't see his face, right? So they updated their sketch to be this in 2019, based on intelligence. Right, but they really didn't know. They really didn't know. Now, so yeah, police thought both of these depictions could be Bridge Guy on the right at different stages of the investigation. So yeah, they didn't know. So where does Richard Allen come in? Right? Here's $1 million question. Where does he come in? How do they even get to it being Richard Allen? So law enforcement put the word out for help from the local community in the days and weeks following the crime, as they do, right? So 2 little girls are murdered. Of course, there's going to be like a tip line. There's going to be law enforcement are going to get on TV. They're going to say, anyone see anybody, please call in, blah, blah, blah. And that's what happened, right? Did Hella do a PowerPoint? Love this. I use Canva actually, and I quite often do these. If you go back through my my videos, I often do these when there's something I really want to explain point by point. This is what I do. Okay, so that's what they did, and they got lots and lots of tips, lots and lots of people call in and say, I was either there, or I saw somebody going to and from the bridge that day, or I heard someone say they were going hiking that day, or I know the girls, or I know somebody who goes there regularly, la 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 la. I know someone who has beady eyes who goes around there, or I know someone who looks like that. So yeah, they had heaps of tips. Now, Local man Richard Allen called in 3 days later to let the authorities know that he was there on the trail that afternoon between 1:30 p.m. and 3:30 p.m. He saw a group of 3 girls. He called in himself and he said he was there between 1:30 p.m. and 3:30 p.m. And he saw a group of 3 girls, not 2, 3. And how do you think that goes down now, right? So he actually said he was there. He's a man. His face could be it. Could be. Who knows? But he said he was there. 3 days later, he called in the tip line. That time is wrong. He said 12:30 or 1:30 in the interview, between 1:30 p.m. and 3:30 p.m. I got this from transcripts of Andrea's notes. So, okay, I'll go back and double check that. Could be wrong, or maybe there were differing accounts. But happy to be corrected. It's Triton. Happy to be corrected. And I bring that up on screen so that people can see this later. But, yeah, that's unusual. I think that was the police officer wrote the time. You think that was the police officer wrote the time in. I may have interviewed 2 in my head. Okay. And these things happen, like different times get written down or said, and then they end up being differing accounts coming out. But I'm very pleased to have the 2 different things in my stream so people can see that differing accounts did occur. So that's fine. Thank you for that, it's Triton. Okay. So, but he did call in and report that he was there on the trail. Well, that was definitely there from 1 p.m. So, as far as the police are concerned, he's a suspect. Well, he wasn't a suspect until later. So, yeah. In fact, the police admitted he wasn't a suspect in the case from 2017 to 2022. Yep. Cool. It was then that investigators brought him in for intense interrogation, saying they had evidence of his bullet at the crime scene. Right, so, yeah, because I went and I read an article from around the time of his arrest, because people were asking, well, why now? Why is he a suspect now? And they admitted flat out in this article that, yeah, he just wasn't a suspect up until now. And he also on the stand, they said that he had fallen through the cracks. He just fallen through the cracks. He was hiding before our eyes. Hello, Maddie B. How's it going? Been replaying Bridge Guy video. Appears he has a limp similar to right leg lower prosthetic. Yeah, people have been asking about his gait, the way he walks. You can tell a lot from the way somebody walks. Surely you could compare that to Richard Allen as well. They were desperate for any suspect, really. Yeah, and there also was talk about apparently the sheriff is an elected position, and it was coming up to election time around the time that he was arrested. Don't know if that's true, if there's any substance to that. Okay, so with this bullet at the crime scene, I want to talk about that for a minute. So, no, the girls weren't shot. Apparently, there was this bullet there, and they said it came from a gun that belonged to Richard Allen. They told him this. So let's talk about that for a second. So the police said somewhere between the two girls' bodies, a bullet was found, and it matched the chamber of Allen's own gun. And no, the girls weren't shot. Right? They weren't shot. So, because whenever everyone hears this, they go, oh, but were they shot? No, they weren't. But there was this bullet, and I'm totally guessing about the placement of where it was. If anyone knows better than me where it was, then please let me know. But from all of the accounts that I can find, and please forgive me, there are so many streams, so many documents, and I'm trying to simplify this all down. So if I've missed it and someone said it was at their feet or something, all I can find is that it was between them. Yep. So there was this bullet on the ground, apparently, just there. And there's this thing called toolmark evidence. It's really controversial. A lot of people in chat, I'm sure you are aware of it. Apparently, what you can do is you can match a bullet to the chamber of a firearm. And you can say that that bullet comes from that firearm. And apparently, it's even been said in court that it's as accurate as a paternity test. I call BS on that. But I don't know much about firearms. I'm an Aussie. But I'm not the only one who calls BS on that. I sure ain't. Yes, it's written. It's a Runkle passion project to debunk it completely. There you go. He knows a lot more about it than me. Same with Nick Starro. He really does not like toolmark experts. Well, doesn't like them personally, but calls it BS. Okay, but the probable cause is sealed. Dodgy, if you ask me. But there's your probable cause, right there, right? So they have a probable cause to arrest him if they can say that the bullet between them belongs to Richard Allen's gun and he was there at the crime scene. Done. Done, done, done. Now, we'll come back to the red lines later. Note the red lines on the bodies and the way they are lined up on the ground. That looks a bit odd, doesn't it? Very strange, because the red lines are actually sticks. Sticks. That's unusual, but we won't go into that in this stream because I don't want this stream to go for 3 hours. So we will talk about that later. Now, police use the controversial REID technique of interrogation. So here's dude down here going, I'm free to leave, right? And other dude up here is going, sure, just pop your hands in these cuffs first, mofo. Right, so the REID technique, if you've watched a lot of interrogation videos, you've probably seen this happen where the cops are like, they have the person in kind of a corner in a really empty room and they're standing obstructing the doorway and they're saying, oh, you're free to leave. But it's really hard for them to leave because they've come in via like a bunch of security and they make them sort of feel like they're not detained, but they really are detained because good luck getting out of there. And then they buddy up with them a little bit and then they just start throwing accusations at them. You did it. We know you did it. We know you fucking did it. Da, 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 da. And then no matter how many times the person says they didn't do it, they just keep interrupting them over and over again, either until they get a confession or until they break and they end up like either being smart and asking for a lawyer or going into jail cell, and they're going to arrest him anyway. They're going to arrest him anyway because they got probable cause. They know they got probable cause. But they're trying to get a confession. We'll go more into this later. But the REID technique, the other important thing about it is the cops can lie. They can lie. Lie. They admitted in court that it is not as accurate as a paternity test on questioning, yes. I believe that was on cross. Yeah. For it to even come up that it could be as accurate as a paternity test is ringing a bell that can't be unrung, I think. It's just stupid. It's just so stupid. Yeah, I don't know about guns, Candace. Yeah, now that's the other thing. The bullet was never shot, so it was an unspent round. I don't understand how an unspent round can have any marks, identifying marks in it whatsoever. So for me, that part of it is, you'll need to listen to one of the streamers who knows about guns. But that's fine. I'm just giving you the top level points, as we say here. Okay, moving on. Now, let's see what Ms. Andrea has to say about the REID technique, shall we?
We're going to have to pause here.
Hang on a minute.
To have a few things to say about the REID technique.
Let's turn it up.
Because the REID technique is yet another unsubstantiated,
Can you hear that?
Unfounded, unverified procedure that, according to law enforcement, is the premier way of extracting a confession from an unwilling suspect. This has been the foremost technique that's been used, that law enforcement officers were trained in for decades. And it has rapidly fallen out of favor. Trying to remember timeline-wise when this first started to become an issue. Because this technique has raised enormous concerns about the potential, if not even the likelihood, of producing false confessions. Those of you who follow a lot of crime stories and things like that online and on social media, you might remember a recent story about a young man who confessed to killing his father, only his father wasn't dead. That's the REID technique. That's the type of thing the REID technique does.
Yeah.
Jojo mentioned last night, and I'm so grateful that she did. It's such an important reminder. The most common factors in wrongful conviction cases, in exonerations, the things that they most commonly involve: false eyewitness identification, junk science, false confessions. False confessions feature in about 30% of these exoneration cases. Thank you, REID technique.
Okay, so obviously Andrea is not a big fan of the REID technique. Honestly, I used to just spend a lot of time watching interrogation videos. It was a thing for me. I went through a period of just watching interrogation videos, and I noticed a repeating trend. The the law enforcement officer would start by buddying up and doing this whole sort of finding something in common with the person, and then they would build up to saying, well, we found this, and then we found this, and so said this about you. Like, we've talked to your wife or your coworker, and they already told us this, so really, you might as well just tell us the truth. And we think you're a good guy. They say that a lot. We think you're a good guy. It's probably best that you just tell us the truth. And then when they start denying it, then they get mad and they really hammer and start interrupting. Every time they deny, they interrupt and interrupt and interrupt and interrupt. So let's keep going. Under intense pressure, Richard Allen denied any involvement in the crimes 20 to 25 times. So this was in interrogation 2022. So we're talking how many years later? 2017, so 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22. So 5 years later, right? And he didn't crack. He did not crack. Under all that pressure, he did not crack. He was being interrogated for hours and hours. They were like, we know you did it. We know you fucking did it. No. And he did not crack, right? Because he knew he didn't. And they said to him, but we found your bullet. We have scientists who said that that's your bullet between these two girls' bodies. We have it. We know it. So what are you doing? Don't lie. There's no point in lying. And he said, I don't know how that's possible. And yeah, he did not crack. So at trial, we learned of the false information investigators used to try to coerce a confession from Allen.
Lieutenant Holman acknowledges lying to Richard Allen when he told him that they had witnesses out there who could ID him and experts who said that it was him and his voice on the video. Acknowledged. Yep. No shame at all. Lied to him because that's an approved technique. It's okay. It's a thing that law enforcement officers do. You know, the thing about lying becomes a slippery slope. I've tried to live my life on a position of radical honesty. Like, white lies, A lie is a lie. And the problem is, once you start lying, it gets easier. It's just like any habit that you can build. And that initial shame, discomfort, self-loathing you might feel because you know that you're lying. You know that you're lying. You get numb to it. And it just becomes an easier and easier thing to do. This is, from my perspective, a significant root of the rot that has infested so many law enforcement agencies. Because if you can lie in the interrogation room, it's a pretty easy step to you can lie in court. You can lie in your affidavits. You can lie to a judge. The whole premise is that the ends justify the means. It's okay to do this immoral thing because at the end of the day, the outcome is good. That's what they think. Because in this mindset, there's good guys and bad guys, people that wear the white hats and people that wear the black hats. And as long as you're one of the guys who wears the white hats, Anything you do is good. It might look bad, but your intentions are pure and noble.
That's it.
So lying gets easier and easier because in your mind, you're the good guy. You're just trying to catch these bad guys. And you know, sometimes the system, it just gets in the way of your ability to do that. You can do better crime solving. You can put more bad guys away if you just go ahead and bend the rules around the edges.
Exactly. So
we have the United States Supreme Court to thank for this, because it was in Frazier versus Cupp back in the 1960s that the U.S. Supreme Court held totally fine for police to lie to people in an interrogation. Totally fine. We don't love it, but not going to say that's coercive. Look where we are today.
Yep. So Barbara asked why is she so upset here. Mate, you should have seen her yesterday. This was Saturday. She has gotten much more upset since this. So this was just to do with the interrogation. And this is why I wanted to make sure that you guys felt educated enough on the case to be able to invest some time following this trial. I mean, obviously, you can just start following the trial if you want to do that anyway. But get to know the case, get to know what actually happened with the crime, so that you can start to get more involved in it and be aware of what's actually happening in Indiana, why people like Andrea have given up their day job, given up their time, moved across the country for 6 weeks to go and sit in this courtroom, why there are people who are spending their time sitting in line for her all night, all day, to try and get one of the 20 seats available in the courtroom so that she can sit there and take copious notes and then report them to us at night time. And then thousands of people, I mean, yesterday there was 10,000 people in her chat. And that was not the only chat. There was another one with 10,000 people, another one with 5,000 people, all sitting there listening to her tell us what happened, because there are no cameras and there is no audio. Now, but Alan was there at the time of the murders. He very loosely fit the first police description. He was male, he was wearing the right clothes, and there was this bullet which apparently matched his gun. He was arrested in October 2022. There he is. Now for the nasty part. Guys, if you thought that was nasty, and by the way, this is not the only nasty part. This is the part that really inspired me yesterday to sit down for, 6 hours or so, research it, break it down, and put this together for you. Alan was placed in isolation in a maximum security prison for 13 months. He was subjected to atrocities we are only now finding out about in trial. Now, I knew that he was put into maximum security. I knew that he went from being this man to this man, emaciated, a shadow of his former self. I saw that, but I didn't know what actually happened in there till yesterday. And it was so hard to hear. It was during this period of isolation that Alan's mental state clearly declined. He made statements implicating himself in many crimes, but particularly the murders of Abby and Libby. And really, these have now become the crux of the state's case. So, these confessions that he supposedly made in maximum security isolation in prison, right? This is a man who has been found guilty of no crime, no record. And he was put in there for his own protection. He went crazy. He just went crazy. Right? This man went crazy. And when you go crazy, also when you put on a drug called Haldol, I don't know if you've ever heard of this drug called Haldol. This drug called Haldol, it's supposed to be an antipsychotic. It's been known to cause all sorts of hallucinogenic, psychotic outbursts. It's just disgusting what happened. At this time, I'm going to have to warn you, it gets graphic, and I have to properly give credit to Andrea for recounting this now. So, Alan's living conditions in solitary confinement. Let's just have a quick listen to this.
We established his bed is 2 to 4 inches off the floor. The camera is on the ceiling on the right-hand side. It's out of his reach. He's filmed 24 hours a day. He has no privacy. The cell is 8 by 12. The lights are always on, but he does have access to dim them some. His window is a little narrow slot. Outside the window is a razor wire fence. The toilet is right next to his bed, near his head where he would sleep. It's a concrete cell. There's no inmate. There's not supposed to be inmate contact in the MCU. They're not supposed to communicate with each other, but he acknowledged they can yell at each other through the doors. The other side of the facility, outside of this MCU, is the general population, Gen Pop. And so, unlike the MCU, in Gen Pop, they have contact with others. Rick was isolated in his cell without physical contact or significant social interaction with another human being for 13 months. In Gen Pop, the inmates, they have contact with each other. They live in a dorm type of setting, a military style barracks, he described it. It's an average 80 of them per dorm. They have a common area. They can watch TV. They have a separate bathroom with a closing door. They eat meals together. Whereas Mr. Allen, he would get food through a hole in the door. He did not have a table. Warden says at one point there was a cardboard box for his TV, but we later heard some discrepancy about whether he actually had a TV. There was no desk, no chair. In general population, the inmates can move around unshackled in the dorm. Rick, anytime he leaves his cell, he is in restraints. He would get rec 5 times a week, except for Tuesdays and Thursdays. They would be locked down. Gen Pop can go outside for recreation. They have this concrete slab. They went through, at this point, what Mr. Rosie did is he went over the map that he had introduced of Westville, and he pointed out on the map all of the different recreation facilities that the general population inmates would get to use. And he pointed out, Rick didn't get to go there. 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 So where did Rick get to use? Where did he get to go for his rec time? It was a indoor room about 10 foot by 15 foot. It has a screen. It's like a cage. Screen over the top so that they can get fresh air, but it's just another walled-in room. It's another walled-in room with some roof ventilation.
Wow.
That's his outside rec. The indoor rec space is probably about twice as big. Neither one of them provides any opportunity for socializing or for physical interaction with others. It would have a pull-up bar and a basketball net, small room with like a couple things you can do in it. On suicide watch, he gets further restricted access to things. The other inmates, even in ADSEG, They could get card games. They could get board games. He doesn't get those. Well, he gets the games on his tablet. He can get some movies, but he has to pay for them. He can get music, but he has to pay for it. He gets phone calls. I guarantee he's got to pay for those. Those are recorded, but not to his attorneys. He can't talk to his wife in private. His messages from his tablet are monitored. At one point, he broke his tablet, and he could have gone without the tablet for a month or more. So it doesn't even have that. Doesn't even have the Candy Crush to keep him occupied.
Yeah. Okay, so Candy Crush was pretty much the only thing he had, apparently. Imagine just having Candy Crush for 13 months. That would suck. All right, let's move on because it gets a lot worse. Richard Allen with his defense attorney, Andrew Baldwin. This is one of the illustrations that we're getting from court now. All right, details of Alan's confessions in prison. Hold on to your hats, guys. This is nasty. So, Hella, do you think we as a country believe in innocent until proven guilty? Hell no. Hell no. Justin? But what I do hope as an observer watching this is that if anything good were to come out of this case, is that more people's eyes are opened to the corruption that can occur. And I'm not saying that it always does. There are good law enforcement officers, there are good prosecutors who just want to find truth and to get to a place of actual real justice. So it's a shame that the officers here and the prosecutors here in this case, and actually I believe the judge as well in this case, don't want that. They just want someone to hang. All right? So it's a shame that they are tainting the outcome, right? For everybody else who it wants a just system. But if something good were to come of it, more people's eyes will be open to the fact that the person who is put before you may not be guilty. So question everything. Question everything. Give people the benefit of the doubt. Innocent till proven guilty. Absolutely. Let's go.
On April 7th of 2023 at 12:45 p.m., Richard said, "Dear Lord, forgive me for molesting Abby, Libby, and Chris." At 1 p.m., "Dear God, forgive me for molesting Abby, Libby, Kevin, and Chris." At 1:45, "I want to confess. I know a lot more." Who are Kevin and Chris, you ask? Who the hell knows? April 13th, 2023, 8:15 a.m. What more do I gotta do? April 23rd, 2023, 2 p.m. I killed Abby and Libby. My wife wasn't involved. I want to confess. April 26th, 2022, 5:06 p.m. Can I talk? Can you listen? I killed Abby and Libby. 5:13. How do I prove I'm insane? June 18th at 3:30. Why are you doing this? Do you know, God, why I'm here? I killed Abby and Libby. June 21st at 3:15. Do I make you mad? Should I tell you about my wife? I killed Abby and Libby. The detailed confessions, the details only the killer would know. Wait till we get the context.
Yeah. Okay. So the law enforcement and the prosecutors say that he revealed details that only the killer would know. He revealed things that weren't even part of it at all. No. Actually, yes, Justin, you're right. Molesting, was that even one of the allegations? No. No. And Kevin and Chris, they don't even exist. These people don't even exist, right? So he's just making things up. It's verbal diarrhea, right? And that's actually a really bad choice of words because what's about to come out is pretty bad. Alan's defense team here, Andrew, Baldwin, Bradley, Rosie, in front of Judge Gull. We'll talk more about Judge Gull in part 2. Okay, and this one.
Mental health. Mr. Rosie asks, how long does someone have to sit there with feces on their face before you would believe that their behavior is genuine? The guard says, well, just standing there with the feces on him wouldn't convince him. You need feces plus. You can't just stand there. Feces plus something else. Then you might be crazy. Mr. Rosie asks, how would you feel if this was your grandmother?
Good question.
And I thought this was a good question because that's the heart of it, isn't it? These aren't humans, but everybody's grandmother is a human. Especially you, Nana. I love you if you're watching. Sorry, I'm cursing a little much tonight. Some of it was the script. I didn't really have any choice. It's what they did in the interview. What if it's your grandmother? And he says, didn't get the whole answer, unfortunately, but something to the effect of, yeah, that wouldn't be weird. My grandma had dementia. His grandma had dementia, so apparently if she was left sitting for 2 hours with feces on her face, he'd be okay with that. I don't think that's really true.
What?
I think that's just the kind of thing you say when you have hate in your heart.
Yeah.
Some other things that Richard Allen said to him that were documented was that his grandfather molested him, that he wanted KFC, and he even asked the guard to read him his last rites.
Wow.
And that he just wants to die.
I'm not surprised. Oh, hang on.
Mental health. You said he looked to make sure he was being watched. When was he not being watched on suicide watch? Loved this question. Thank you, jury. You see it.
That's a jury question.
You see it. When indeed was he not being watched on suicide watch? Oh, when he was writing in his log, when he was looking down the hall, things like that, if there was a noise that would distract him. Mr. Rosie follows up. Isn't it the case that you spent a lot of time drawing anime in prison? And he said, yes, in my free time.
Huh. How did he know that?
That's why Richard Allen is a pain in the butt, because he has needs. You're supposed to be a human caretaker. Your job in there is to keep him safe and keep him secure. But he's losing his mind, and you're annoyed with him because he's taking you away from drawing your anime.
Yeah. Andrea referred to some of the people on the stand in court yesterday as reptilian. Wow. Okay, last one. I think let's go.
April 10th at 2:50 a.m. Okay, this is the middle of the night, remember, because you have no circadian rhythm in the hole, and this is part of what will drive you crazy if you're in there for an extended period of time. Your sleep patterns are disrupted, and losing sleep will drive you nuts. 2:50 a.m.
Oops, sorry.
At 3:12 a.m., he is masturbating in front of the door, singing, "Mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys." 3:35, "God bless America, I'm guilty." 4:05, running in place, singing, "God bless America." This particular guard simply recorded these things because there is no mental health provider until earlier, like the early morning hours. Apparently 4:05 is not the early morning hours enough. 4:50, "I want to go camping. You, me, Roger, Marvin. Chris is my best friend." None of these statements made sense to him. He never mentioned details about killing the girls. Richard Allen was previously polite. He slept a lot, lots more than others. Maybe a sign of depression. His cell was pretty bare, not a very stimulating environment. Well, that's prison. Last time he heard him say anything about the case was before July. Agreed that other offenders would try to agitate him. They would yell at him that there is no insanity defense.
Wow.
Mr. McClelland said, he asks, as far as Richard Allen speaking about sex, he said, "If I killed them, I killed them." It seemed like he was having trouble remembering or almost saying that it didn't matter. What kind of behavior required them to notify the mental health professional that's on staff? Well, if they are about to commit suicide,
Wow.
that is when they will notify mental health. They are about to commit suicide. Nothing about Richard Allen's behavior at any point caused him to notify mental health immediately.
None of that did.
Repeated the statement, "I killed the girls, so I have to kill myself." What about that statement? Well, "I had him under observation, so if he had done anything, I would have stopped him. So no need for a mental health response." Because they don't really have the capability to do that immediately. There's only nurses on the floor, nurses and supervisors. So they can't get mental health in there even if they want to. Even if somebody is trying to kill themselves in the middle of the night, all they will do is apparently restrain them and wait until morning.
Wow.
In April, he was on suicide watch. His cell was stripped down to almost nothing. He had no sheets. The jury questions, what are suicidal actions that require calling a doctor? The answer, the physical act of trying to kill yourself. Physically trying to kill yourself, that's it. That's all that gets a doctor. And these guys, they're looking for attention.
Wow. Okay. Sorry to put you guys through that, but this is the only way we are finding out about this, guys. There are no cameras in the courtroom. There is no audio feed. We have this woman. There's also Lawyer Lee, who is also doing a wonderful job, I believe. I haven't had time to look at Lawyer Lee's stream. Last night, Andrea got back from court. She said she was visibly shaken, and she said she wanted to have a short stream. She ended up streaming for 5 hours. 5 hours. So obviously I'm having a little bit of trouble keeping up with the other commentators. Good for them though. They're also putting in a lot of hard work. I just can't congratulate them enough for the work that they're doing. It's a public service. It really is. For us to be able to hear what's happening, it's disgusting. And honestly, it's overshadowing the terrible, terrible things that happened to those two girls, isn't it? This trial should be about the murder of those two girls, and yet it's become about the inhumane treatment of the defendant. That was just about enough for me for part one. So part two will complete the timeline to trial. Yes, so this is from the trial. So that Richard Allen got broken so bad that he had played, well, basically that he was put into maximum security prison, into solitary confinement for 13 months. And that's when he confessed, right? After being broken down that bad, that's when he was not only confessed to the murders, confessed to a bunch of stuff. Confessed to like molesting and all sorts of things that just didn't even happen, right? And he was clearly, his mind was just broken. His mind was just broken. Now, there is a mental health expert, Dr. Waller, who should be a witness for the defense, and there was some question over whether her testimony is even going to be allowed in by by Judge Gull. In my opinion, that would be completely out of order for her to not allow in that mental health expert's testimony. Apparently, it would go for a few days, her testimony, because it will speak to whether or not he was sane at the time, and therefore whether or not his confession was of any relevance whatsoever, or should be taken with any credibility. But we'll see. We'll see. This one, I mean, it really is innocent till proven guilty. There's not much tying him to this crime. There's not much. He was there that day. That's about it. The other big thing that's come out just in the last day or two is that there was none of his DNA at the crime scene. Well, none was found. None was found. So, yeah. And hi, Zach. How are you? I didn't say hello to you properly. Zach Ellery. Okay. So that was just about enough for me. So I decided to split it at this point because this is where we're at the trial right now. This is where we're at the trial, which is a perfect timing for me to split this up. We're just over an hour, which means that when I do the next section, we'll go from this point in the timeline, him being in prison, doing these confessions, and that was 2023. Sorry, when were the actual confessions? It would have been a little bit later because 13 months after he was arrested. So it was sort of mid 2023. And then later, his defense comes along with a very interesting document about a cult in the area, an Odinist cult. And that actually explains some of the sticks and things that you saw earlier and that I alluded to. So that's a whole other story, guys. That's a whole other story. When is part two? It'll be in the next few days, Carlene. So if you could just put your notifications on, that'd be fantastic. I do need to put it together. So yesterday I scrambled. I spent 5 or 6 hours chucking this together. And I also would like to include a few more of Andrea's clips into it as well. So I'll be following that. So, you want part two, right? Meow. I'm pleased you enjoyed it. Thank you, Steph. Now we're going to go and raid Andrea. So let's go over there. She's probably got 9,000 people already. But I need to go over there and help mod anyway. So let's go over there. She's got her redirects on too, which is awesome. She didn't have them on until recently. There we go. Yeah, so Abby and Libby, all the love to them. All the love to them. And yeah, Miss Andrea is live. Thank you. Please like and subscribe. Oh, I just need to say thank you also to for FFS. Thank you for becoming a member. Much appreciated. Thank you to Chloe for your super chat. Much appreciated. And Kat, not Williams, with the 10 Excited Utterance memberships. I love you so much. Thank you so much for the gifted memberships. Welcome new members. Welcome to the new members. Make sure that you go through to the Discord. It's underneath the membership perks link. And thank you for the redirect as well. Much appreciated via Dali. Okay, that's about it. Love you all. And time for the song. Time for the song. Where is it? Oh dear. Can't even find it anymore. Can't even find my song. There it is.
Her name was Helen. She was an REID. She was a fake lawyer from the future. She got on YouTube and made some live streams. The co-host is Dolly and she dances sometimes. The words are always so loud and because she's an 803. To the attention, excited, you're